Hello and welcome to another football podcast with Azad and Jack. This is our seventh podcast, Jack. Gosh, time flies, doesn't it, Jack?
Wow, seven. At least it's my lucky number. You know, seven, George Best, Eric Cantona, Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's going to be a good podcast today.
I hope so. I hope so. In today's episode, we're going to look at the subject of chance in football once again, with some very interesting ones that Jack would like to share with us. So, which intriguing famous chants have you got for us today, Jack?
Well, because one of our favourite characters, Azad, is Park Ji-sung. We've mentioned him before, and we've said that you don't have to necessarily be a Manchester United fan to have been a fan of Park Ji-sung. So he played for my team, Manchester United, and he was one of the first prominent Asian players, I would say, in the Premier League and in England. And there was a bit of cynicism when he came over because people thought that we were just buying the player to sell shirts in like the Asian market. But for Manchester United, he turned out to be this great cult hero, which means a cult hero is someone who finds like a little pocket of fandom. You know, the fans really like him. They get behind him, even though he might not be the most talented. You can't really call Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi a cult hero because everyone likes them. But with Park Ji-sung, he was so popular with our fans because he was so hardworking. We said he had an engine on him as well, which means he just ran around a lot and, you know, you couldn't stop him. And he was a big fan favourite. But the chant that I'm going to explain to you today is a little bit controversial. When we talked in the previous podcast, we looked at fairly nice chants. You know, we said, the chants that support the players, you know, to get behind them. And this one that I'm going to mention does too. But it also includes the flip side of it. This is why it's a good chant to introduce. Because, as we've said before, football teams and within stadiums, they're very tribal. It's about belonging. And it's an opportunity not just to support your own team, but to attack your main rivals. And as we've said before, one of Manchester United's main rivals is Liverpool. Historically, they're also an extremely successful club, like Manchester United. I think they've won 18 titles, soon to be 19, and we've won 20. So there's a big competition there. People from Liverpool are known as Scousers. It's a nickname that's given. So in London, you have Cockneys in a certain pocket of London because London's so big. In Newcastle, you have Geordies. And in Manchester, you have Mancs or Mancunians. But in Liverpool, we have Scousers. And they're recognisable. They have that accent like, how's he going? You know, it's horrible. I hate it. But apologies to any Scousers that are out there. And there's this big rivalry between Mancunians and Scousers, which again, we've mentioned before. So one of the things that we like to talk about, attack each other with, is talking about how poor the other team is. You know, not just in terms of bad, but also in terms of the fans being quite poor as well, in terms of money. So talking, you know, it's not a nice thing to attack, but this is, and I'm not saying I condone it, but I'm just explaining an example of how chants work in football. And with this one, it includes a line about the poor areas in which Scousers live. So the background to this, we have Park Ji-sung, we have attacking poor Liverpudlians, poor Scousers, you know, who don't have a lot of money. And we're going to introduce something, I'm not sure what they call it in Korea, but in the UK, we have things called council houses, don't we? Council houses, council flats. And these were historically given by the government to like poor families, you know, like massive terraced houses or estates or flats in tower blocks, which are all the same, just to help accommodate people. I think in America, they call them projects. You know, you might hear about it in rap. They go, oh, I come from the projects. and we would say, "Oh, you come from a council estate or a council house." Then I mean, my family are from council estates, and there's a certain pride in there, but they are associated with lack of wealth. Okay, right. So I've set up this chant. Sorry, I've been talking because it's to set up this chant as well, and to explain the context. And the last thing that I want to say is that it borders on stereotypes and racism, which can actually play a big part in the game. We all know about racism and how it needs to be stopped, but we also talk about certain stereotypes. They're easy, particularly for crowds, to get behind when you all sort of have a certain image. And when Park Ji-sung came over to England, he is, of course, South Korean. And it was in the early stages of the internet. Not everyone, I think Wikipedia didn't exist and things like that. And you've got to admit, not a lot of people knew about South Korea. But one of the things that they did know is probably, one, the war with North Korea, and two, the stereotype that they are said to like eating dogs. Okay? So that's the racist side of it. I don't think I've spoken to loads of Korean students, and I don't think any of them have even eaten dog. It's like saying, when you speak to someone in England, speak to someone from a foreign country about English people and say, "Oh, do you like a cup of tea?" And it's like, I don't drink tea, but it's the stereotype that goes along with it. So, without further ado, I will introduce this chant.
Finally.
Sorry, yeah, lots of context on this.
No, I think you need the introduction. I think it needs the big introduction. Okay, but go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, because as I said, I don't want it to sound like I'm racist or Manchester United fans are racist, but I'll take it away. Okay. Goes, Park, wherever you may be, you eat dogs in your own country, but it could be worse. You could be scouse, eating rats in a council house.
Terrible.
And it's really mean, but really it's terrible, very popular. And to touch on something that we mentioned last week as well, this was taken from a popular song. It was actually a hymn called, I think, Lord of the Dance or Dance Dance. Kids used to sing it in school. So again, it's tapping into, you have thousands and thousands of football fans. You have to, if you want everyone singing together or chanting together, you have to use familiarity. So it's a popular, well-known song. And so that's why it's easy to sing. But as I said, it's about stereotypes, which are quite common. It's getting behind a player, and it's also attacking a rival. And most importantly, as we said with any chant, it's memorable as well.
And one that is much loved by the fans as well. So they do sing it, or they did sing it quite a lot when Park Ji-sung was there. You mentioned a word. I just wanted to touch on this word and this phrase. You said that we do not condone any form of racism, or we do not condone any form of abuse towards anybody. What do you mean by this?
Good. Well, I always think of condone and condemn. So to condemn is to oppose it, to go against it. Whereas condone is almost support it. I wouldn't say you don't have to get behind it, but you are not attacking it. Okay? You say, parents will often say it to kids. They would say, "Oh, I don't condone that behavior." That's, they're not supporting that type of manner or attitude or things like that. So this is what I'm saying. When I was using it with the chant, if it was very racist and very hurtful and very mean, I would condemn it. Yeah, I would say this is bad. It shouldn't be sung. And with this one, because it's a tricky subject, I'm not going to condemn it, and I'm not going to condone it. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's bad. So I always like to think of it in that way. You have condone, which is sort of support and or not attack, and you have condemn, which is to say this is wrong.
These are actually really, really famous and common expressions that we use, and we often use it in this way to say I don't condone it. We don't often say I do condone something. You don't often say I condone something or like that. So we often say I don't condone this action. So excellent, good word. We also have another chant that you wanted to mention regarding some brothers in the Premier League who used to play in the Premier League, right?
I did actually. Now, I wanted to bring this up just to support this idea of using culture and pop culture and tapping into like common themes with fans. I want to really emphasize how important it is to find like a kindred spirit with it with your fellow fans, even though they are strangers. Of course, when you're a season ticket holder, you're sat around the same people, but then there's thousands of them around you, so you have to find a common theme. And this one was so simple. It was with the two brothers Yaya Toure and Kolo Toure. Probably the most, I'd say, them and Phil and Gary Neville, probably the two most famous brothers to play in the Premier League, maybe?
Yeah, in recent times, probably, yes.
In recent times, definitely,
Yeah.
because, you go back and there's Bobby and Jack Charlton, things like that. But yeah, and both of them were extremely talented. Kolo Toure used to play for you, didn't he?
Yeah, for Arsenal, yes.
For Arsenal, yeah. And we always wanted to see Kolo and Yaya play on the same team. And it happened at Manchester City, where I can't remember, I think Kolo came first, and then Yaya arrived from Barcelona. So there was a period where they were both playing for the same team. And I'm not sure if it was City who invented this chant, but it was so popular because it was so catchy that even I couldn't help singing it. And it was about, two players of a club. And Kolo even went to play for Liverpool, who I hate, like even more than I hate City. But it was a catchy chant. And I think I mentioned to you that I was actually singing this with some friends on a beach in Bali during my gap year, just to sound very pretentious. And we couldn't speak any of the language of the native people at the time, the local people, but we got everyone to sing this chant. It was that catchy and that popular. And all it was taking an early 90s song, which is, I think, called No Limits, by a one-hit wonder called Two Unlimited, which went, no, 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 there's no limit. Right, that was it. I can't remember any of the rest of the song, but that was the tune. So, Man City fans, and then I think Liverpool fans took it on, were just to sing Colo, 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 Toure, ya, 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 Toure, Colo, and you get the idea. And it would just be repeated, repeated, and repeated. And the important thing was you had to do it with the right arm actions as well. So Colo, you would point your fingers down, and then ya, ya, you would put your hands in the air. So everyone would go low for Colo, and then high for Yaya. And it was very communal, and I've got to admit that was one of my favourite chants.
Even though it's with your rival, it's a chant about your players from rival teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just shows you how popular it was, how catchy it was, how how funny it was at the time to see people chanting this. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take your hat off and say, "Well done, that's a good chant."
Yep. Excellent. Okay. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot in today's episode. Please join us again soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.